Nic Cage is Dracula. Now that's something.
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don J. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. I'm now back from my movie review break after the short Endgame was to film. I'm on to the final few reviews I'm going to be doing for a while before I start packing and moving things. To move down to the basement of the house, of my other house anyways. And to kick that week off, this review is going to be for none other than a film that came out this weekend. A new film from Nic Cage. And it's a horror comedy film. And another Dracula interpretation. And that film is going to be for none other than Renfield, directed by Chris McKay. And was released this Friday. So what's the plot of this? Well, Arm Renfield, played by Nicholas Hoult, decides to leave his centuries-long line of work as a henchman and familiar to Count Dracula and finds a new lesson in life in modern-day New Orleans when he falls in love with the feisty but personally aggressive traffic cop named Rebecca Quincy. So, how was this film made? Well, in July 2014, Universal Pictures announced the classic horror film properties, including the characters of Count Dracula, as part of a unified shared universe that Alex Kurtzman and Chris Morgan attached to oversee in development. After the negative reception of Dracula Untold, his connections to a unified series were downplayed, and The Mummy was repositioned as the first film in the series. The Mummy, which was a critical and commercial failure, resulted in Universal's decision to shift its focus to individual storytelling and move away from the shared universe concept. Instead, Renfield is intended as a direct sequel to Universal's 1931 English-language film Dracula. And Robert Kirkman, speaking at the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con the San Diego Convention Center, pretty much said that Renfield was based on an original pitch by comic book writer Robert Kirkman, based on an original pitch by Robert Kirkman, used a screenplay by Ryan Ridley. Then in November 2019, Dexter Fletcher was hired to direct the film for Universal and Skybound Entertainment. The film is described as a comedic approach to the story of Count Dracula. In the vein of Taika Waititi's vampire mockumentary What We Do in the Shadows, the focus on the character of Renfield. And then in 2010, Leigh Whannell's The Invisible Man became a critical commercial success for Universal and served as a relaunch to its monster universe. Then in April 2021, Chris McKay entered negotiations to direct after Fletcher had left to work on a reboot of the same for Paramount Pictures. McKay was hired because he reportedly gave a successful pitch combining the story's mix of humor and action, and something the studio was looking to be more aware of. Then when it came to casting, Nicholas Hoult was then cast as Renfield in August 2021. Nicolas Cage was even cast to play Count Dracula in November, and Awkwafina and Ben Schwartz were added to the cast in December. Andrea Martinez, Shori Galasso, Bess Rose, James Moses Black, Caroline Williams, and Brandon Scott Jones were confirmed to star the following year. An enormous fan of Dracula and the source material, Cage even prepared for his role by observing the distinctive ways Dracula was portrayed on screen by Bela Lugosi, Frank Langella, and Gary Oldman. But what could he bring that would be different? He even said he wanted it to be pop in a unique way, and they saw it play well. They saw it play not so well. What could they do? They were thinking of really focusing on the movement of the character, that perfect tone of comedy and horror. And Cage mentioned An American Werewolf in London, Ring, and Malignant as inspirations for the role. And it was also Nic Cage's first live-action film in a major studio since Ghost Rider Camera of Shakiness. Yeah, we had Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, but that was made independently. This is his first film from a major studio since Camera of Shakiness. So after the film was shot and marketed, Renfield had its world premiere at the Overlook Film Festival on March 30th, 2023, and was released in the United States on April 14th, 2023 by Universal Pictures. As for the reaction to critics, much like the Mario movie, this film also received mixed reviews from critics. But as for my reaction, well, I saw the film last Wednesday at a Wednesday night screening, and I gotta say, this may just have to be one of my favorite movies this year. It turned out to be much better than I predicted. The cast was great, the humor was gold, and the CGI gore was epic. And Nicholas Hoult is great as Renfield. And Nic Cage, on the other hand, he was born to play Dracula, and Ben Schwartz pretty much goes from Sonic to a demented awesome crime lord. And Chris McKay directed such a gem, which is a pure blast of entertainment. So I'm so glad the trailer bears so much. Pretty much truly blessed on whoever created the trailer, and only wish the Postmates line was kept in. It's such a great action horror comedy that deserves so much praise. And I love Chris McKay's intention was to make a direct sequel to the 1932 Dracula, and it works quite well. And Nicolas Cage, New Orleans, and Dracula, now that's a combination made from heaven and purgatory and hell, right? But what a ride this film is. Like, no actor today is more perfectly suited to play a campy Dracula than Nic Cage. And New Orleans, as the setting, well, you can't do any better. The storyline is a bit convoluted, and the twists and turns around, but what a thrill ride this film is. The Skybound team has just created a doozy, and the chosen theme of comically exploring the concept of a toxic codependent relationship is definitely 2023. But it works perfectly here. With Dracula and his assistant Renfield, they find a way to make it work. While I know many have and will go on to keep criticizing the film's thin plot, occasionally rushed exposition, and cookie cutter bad guy villains, I get it, but I don't care about these things at all, because they're not what's important. And this was an absolute blast to watch. It's tightly paced, appropriately tongue-in-cheek, action-packed, and surprisingly boasting a good amount of heart. And Nic Cage even chews the scenery to a wonderful degree, and everyone else gives the best performances they can as well. And the comedic timing and tone of line delivery is always spot on, and I love that the dialogue and action sequences are consistently over the top, placing the movie in an exaggerated reality that should never be taken seriously. It makes it so effortless to ride the wave of campy yet confidently constructed fun that the filmmakers and actors were so keen to take us on. Yet even with the craziness that nearly threatens to overwhelm the screen, there is also a great deal of care taken to give this wild ride a beating heart. And Renfield and Quincy's emotional struggles are tankleable even through the distractions, and they're immediately made so easy to root for. Just watching them overcome their simple yet understandable burdens amidst the glorious goofy carnage was an absolute delight. Here, in fact, I really loved Holt and Aquafina's chemistry they had with each other during their scenes together. Here, I thought they worked very well together as both. They pretty much, their characters work together as a couple very well, and it's not like over corny stuff. It's not like overly forced throughout the whole movie. No, it actually does work decently well. And as for the gore in this movie, oh, the gore level is the expected for a vampires film, with a well-made job by the makeup department and the FX makeup used in Cage and Holt. Here, I just absolutely love the goriness. I thought this film would be just light gory. No, the finale of this movie probably has a shitload of gore. Yeah, it's all CGI, but I just love that they actually grew a pair of balls and actually made a comedy gory, a horror comedy brutal in the final minutes. And it's pretty much just a film to just sit back, relax, and enjoy, and turn off your mind. It's funny and enjoyable. And it's a comeback Dracula needed after the failure of Universal's Dark Universe. A comedy needs laughs, and this movie delivers on so many levels, and I was just surprised how much I laughed throughout the film. The dialogue is well done to be funny, and many techniques to bring laughs like catchphrases, good use of curse words, banter, babbling, and sounding like an idiot. It all works for much in the movie, and the acting helps add the emphasis and bring the right punch to make the line the best. The dynamic style really works, but adds the slapstick humor and over-the-top action stunts that only further makes the movie a joy to watch, and ridiculous but still a joy. And the pacing is entertaining, it's fast, and it contains a lot of merit in the way that it presents the story, certainly more depth than it could have been given. The pacing sounds appease the attention spans of most, and works with the comedic edge of the movie. Everyone involved is clearly having a total blast with what this movie could be, while never losing sight of the intent to entertain, and that it does without question, and being delightfully over the top and full embracing movie magic in its plot developments, and blending horror, stylized action, and comedy, and doing so in a way that's knowing, smart, and cheeky. Every competent part here is simply understanding, and the wild blood, gore, and special makeup, and some choice shots spotlighting that garshness, the wonderfully outrageous stunts and effects practical, the special, sharp, intelligent humor connected to the core conceits or not, and sometimes joyfully and deliberately contraposted. And Cage is wholly reveling in the ham-handled, theatrically, and chewing of scenery as Dracula. Holt and Aquafina are even given an opportunity to show more of the rage and skill sets as actors, and I can easily reflect on. I hope I get to see them both and much more. Shorna Gasasso is an unexpected highlight in her supporting part, living under the underhanded smarm and menace of Bella Francesca. This is hardly to count the swell acting from Ben Schwartz, Bess Russ, Camila Chin, Brandon Scott Jones, or anyone else among the cast. And the production design and art direction too are excellent across the board. There's special highlights in the decoration of Dracula's lair, and the Lobo stronghold, and even Renfield's apartment. And a peppy soundtrack is even splendid compliments to the solid, if more ordinary score of Margot Beltrami, and just as importantly, very fitting for the zesty tone that Renfield adopts. And on that note, of course, and this would be possible without a robust black tone, to the credit of Kirkman and Ridley, they've even done a terrific job in penning what the picture would become. Snappy and well-considered exposition lead us directly into that superb swirl of genres. With a consistent, somewhat unique, and surprising through line, the screenplay distinctly plays with concepts of abuse, codependency, and toxic relationships, and doesn't sparingly deployed in such a fashion that with clear hope of helping to connect some dots of people in the audience who need a little push. With everything that the feature aims to stir together, including a tightly wound plot mixing the Dracula-Renfield dynamics, Quincy's personal and professional difficulties, criminal organizations, and police corruption, as storytelling does get a tad heavy-handed and gawky at points. Now when it comes to the performances and direction, with Nicholas Hoult cements his skills at comedy with another really funny performance, and Renfield's lack of confidence and journey to find that is really endearing. And Aquafina is obviously equally strong when it comes to the comedy, and this role also offers a few dramatic moments as well here, so her character's not just comedic for a change, and definitely a much better improvement. And this role is a far better improvement from her character in Shang-Chi as well. She's not nearly as obnoxious as her character in Shang-Chi was, so I really like that. And with Ben Schwartz even has another funny supporting performance in his resume, especially coming right after Sonic 2. The best performance and strongest aspect easily though of the whole film is definitely Nicolas Cage's Dracula. He brings the Cage elements you expect while still having an intimidating presence. And even though he gets enough screen time, more Dracula could have been appreciated. And Chris McKay's direction is also really good. The film may even lack an overall style, but he sure makes the film. It's generally stylish with implemented slow motion, energetic and well shot fight scenes in the odd montage. And it even starts off with something that I didn't really see coming, but any film fan would appreciate. The two leads, Holt and Cage, reenacting scenes from the iconic 1931 black and white Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and Cage even does play his best Lugosi eye gaze, and they even have these scenes in black and white for authenticity. And then we go to the present too. We then get intermittent inner monologues of Renfield, as this is less a Dracula movie and more a Renfield movie, but exactly who is Renfield? And that's another thing I appreciate about this film, is that it acknowledges the character Renfield that only a handful of other films have, but again, mostly famously, it was the 1931 film. Renfield was this real estate agent that went to Dracula's castle to attempt to sell him real estate, as he knew he was wealthy. While staying there, he was driven to madness by Dracula's influence. Here. Sorry guys, I'm just... Being on break does give you a little bit slower, so forgive that. But, however, did the movie have some bad qualities? Yeah, I agree the movie has some bad qualities here. Like, first off, despite Renfield and Quincy's good romantic chemistry, their storylines, like Aquafina's character, been interwinded a bit too sweetly looking back on it, and Dracula's intervention in it came a little early and soon for my liking. and a longer runtime, same thing with Mario, could have helped the greater build-up and a more subtle weaving together of the two storylines. Although this could have had a contrary effect of giving more scenes to the character of Quincy with no obvious link to the character of Renfield and coming across incongruous as a result. And the Quincy storyline didn't really convince us that it could have been more substituted with something else, and consequently was a little uninspired on some levels that don't really convince you to invest yourself more than partially. So into hopping the story wraps up satisfyingly, and on some occasions, the way the two characters fed off of each other felt like a pilot for a network comedy drama, with the way the direction of the film changes halfway through, giving it its entirely vibes of a TV two-parter condensed into one. I certainly wouldn't be averse to further exploration of the character, especially with Holt's impressive, engaging, at times empathetic and relatable portrayal, which was easily the strongest portrayal in the whole, which was definitely the second strongest portrayal behind Nic Cage's Dracula. And I dare say, it would definitely be unnecessary and painfully derivative. Like, given the events of the end of the film here, like, meaning United Against Dracula would have possibly fallen to this, and some of the psycho babble satire was okay, but they seemed to be afraid to run with it. And basically a fairly good new premise, but they didn't really bring it. This is definitely like not Army of Darkness or Dead Alive and From Dusk to Dawn, either or both of which are still better than this movie slightly. Those movies, like, you want to see like, those movies are a blast to watch because, well, because they knew to get the slapstick stuff right, and they get this psychobabble satire a little better done here. But this movie's also has some good psychobabble banter here. And finally, one other problem I have. Loves Ben Schwartz's character, but I honestly wish they just made Ben Schwartz the human antagonist instead of his character's mom, because technically his character's mom's somewhat of the human antagonist, and Ben Schwartz is kind of just her sidekick. I don't know why Ben Schwartz's character could have just been the leader of this whole Lobo family. Then. I don't know why he could have just been the one human antagonist here, because he gets better screen time and better development than she does. Here, another thing. Also, I don't know why even this guy here could have played the Scrooge character in Violent Nights. I mean, people can say, but John's performance was perfect. Well, I'd probably like his character better if he wasn't played by an actor I lost respect for in Violent Nights, and I feel like he probably would have made a better Scrooge in Violent Night, to be honest. Probably would have made an entertaining one, to be honest. But that's just me. And also, him and Dracula do team up in the finale, but I would have liked that idea of him and Dracula teaming up for their evil plans much quicker. Because they do somewhat do that in the middle of the film, but it doesn't really get visited. And it would have been a nice concept just seeing Sonic himself team up with Nic Cage's Dracula for world domination and evil. That would be an interesting movie to watch. I would have liked seeing more scenes of them together. Because for the brief time they have together, they seem like they have good villain chemistry, and they would have made a pretty good villain duo. However, these nitpicks don't ruin the movie for me, and I overall still enjoyed it. In the end, I would highly recommend Renfield to Nic Cage fans, horror fans, and Dracula fans, and those who want to throw back to horror comedy slapstick films such as Dead Alive and the Evil Dead movies. Anyways, that's it for my review of Renfield. If you're wondering how I'm going to rank Renfield, here's how I'm going to rank this movie.
So overall, if you love and want to see Nic Cage play Dracula in some good CGI gore, and I would highly recommend watching and buying this movie for your collection for sure. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Renfield, I'm going to give Renfield a 9 out of 10.
There we go. That wraps up my review for Renfield. And, we all know tomorrow I'm going to be seeing Evil Dead Rise, and then doing the Evil Dead ranking. Yeah. The reason I'm filmed this on a Sunday is because Wednesday, the day this is getting posted, I'm probably going to be busy putting my figurines into boxes and then dusting off the figurine shelves, because the figurines and masks are going to go first. And yeah, the DVDs will be packed last. So, yeah, we're gonna have a better location at least. It'll finally get to be more louder. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.